farms were using milk cans in the early 20th century, like the McDermott milk can you can see at the Conesville Country Store, or those you're sitting on in the back. Usage of bulk tanks required individual farms to install standing tanks to store milk, and perhaps the possibility of new structures for that storage. Other equipment was also needed, and tightened regulations made it more difficult to sustain dairy farming on a small scale. Many small farms could not afford these changes, and many of them began to drastically decline in profitability. At the same time, processing of milk became more centralized at larger plants, and the ability to sustain small plants, like the one in Manorkill, became much more idealistic than realistic. Without any doubt, the Manorkill Creamery has an important place here in Conesville's history, and today we commemorate that. While our community has changed in many ways, the tradition of agriculture continues, with some of the families on the list over there and in here tonight still farming, although it may not necessarily be dairy farming. On one final note, if you are interested in learning more about the Manorkill Creamery, I'm excited to announce a book that includes transcriptions of all of the Manorkill Creamery related articles and primary sources I have collected to date. In the book, you will find all of the references to the 250 plus surnames I discussed earlier, and I'm not sure when that book will be available. It's currently being, printed. But I expect that the price will be around $10, and all of the profit will be donated to the Conesville Historical Society for reinvestment in local history. And see me if you're interested in a copy. If you're interested in joining the Historical Society, please sign up at the back of the room where Mary is currently. And membership for that is $10 annual individual, $15 for a family, and $150 for life. We also run our events as free, but we have a donation box by the display for anyone who might want to contribute. Thank you all for your attention, and now I would like to turn it over to Supervisor Bill Federici for a few words.
Thank you, Kim, and that was the key phrase, few words. I will be mercifully brief, but I do want to say a couple of things, and some of it might be a little bit repetitive for what Kim had said about thanking the Highway Department and Skeeter. They've been really, we wouldn't be having that. Don't get too close to the mic. Okay, thank you. No, I do want to just say a couple of things about our heritage and the partnership that has developed between the town and the Historical Society, and it all started with the Couchman House being the genesis of getting this thing together. And I think a lot of things you can say about the community is having a good record and of your history. However, it's also extremely important, if you can at all, if at all possible, have some physical indication of our past. And dairy being what it was in this town, that was the industry. And as we all know, it's not the same as it was, but there's still a lot of people that are engaged in some kind of agriculture, or we still have a lot of farms around, fields and things like that where the hay is cut, but you don't have the dairy that we used to have. So a place like this is a physical reminder of the things that went on here, not to mention the history behind it, which Kim so ably put together. But you drive by, and this is a remembrance of what took place here, and the reason it was here, and the volume and the size of the dairy business in the town. So I just think that's a wonderful thing, and this building, I'm glad it still stands, but it's been repurposed, but the fact is it still is part of the original history. I don't know how big the other buildings were, but this is what remains, and it's been repurposed as a building for storage for the highway department. And something interesting for history, it even doubled as the school bus garage for a few years after the fire. So it still being put to good use for everybody. And as far as anything else, I just think this is a wonderful opportunity to get the community together, and we have a pretty good crowd here. And I want to thank everybody for coming. And Kim. running this affair.
Thank you, Bill. Now I'd like to invite Carrie, and she's back there, and Mary up. We have an opportunity here tonight, and because we're talking about something in a relatively recent history, we'd like to offer a forum for people to actually share their experiences, so I'm going to let them lead.
I have a big voice, so don't be too loud. Anyway, one of the things we put together two large posters with the idea that you can look at that, the list of family names is there, but there are connections with the Creamery beyond what you may even think. As I explained to someone earlier, the connection I feel, I wasn't even here when the Creamery stopped operating. However, my husband and I bought property that belonged to the Castles, who were very much here, who had cows and raised cows. And when I came here, I came with a Guernsey cow that we hand milked for quite a few years, made our own butter, but we still live on that land that supported a dairy farmer and his family. And many of us still live, the land is still here that provided the food for the cows, for the buildings, for the people. And I think, it isn't a direct connection. And I bet a lot of you really do still like butter and milk and yogurt and cheese and things like that are still being made. But I think it's kind of helps you reach back to that time. So, is there anything you want? Yeah. So we have in the poster, some of you have already done that for us, just little milk can cards that if you can think of a connection you have, then would you please write it down for us so we can add it to the drawing of the milk truck. But perhaps you are someone who has memories or a longer story to tell, and we were going to invite people, if you have a story to tell, then we'd like to welcome you to let us know and come up and share with us. So is there anyone who would like to do that? Sure, Ernie.
Well, I don't
Come on
want
up.
to real late.
I'll give you this so everyone can hear you.
Well, the first thing I have to say is I'm truly grateful to have been born in May 16, 1949, so I didn't miss this, because I think they were glorious days. And anyways, I'm speaking in behalf of a couple people who can't be here. Stanley Fancher, as you know, if you think I would pray for him, he's out in Cooperstown. Some of the other people that aren't here tonight are not here because they want to see Stanley. But Stanley wanted me to tell everybody he remembered riding down the roller tracks as a kid between the hot milk cans. So if you ever remember the hot milk cans, they were hot. And you tried to avoid them. And his story is that he was wise enough to sit down on the rollers. Other kids tried that too. And if you were standing rolling down and you caught your feet, you were in big trouble. So that's one story. Then in B's book, Mr. B.H. Nichols pastored the Manorkill Church and the Conesville Church from 1919 to 1921. I was privileged to know his son, Ed Nichols Sr., who is grandfather to Gwen Dysenroth from Bybrook Farm. We can still pull right in front of the barn and go buy some fresh cow milk with New York State's blessing. They don't really like you to sell raw milk, but these guys meet the qualifications to do it. Anyway, so Ed, while he attended Manorkill, the school down here on Beaver Hill, stopped by the Creamery at 6 o'clock in the morning to stoke up the embers